Hello, everybody. Again, this is Michael Reese, Certified Financial Planner, sitting here with accountant extraordinaire, Mr. Larry Flynn. Larry, how are you doing today?
Very good, Mike.
All right, so we're here to cover class number 3, which is the second part of tax reduction strategies. Now, just a quick recap. In class number 1, we went over the basics, and just to show people what was possible. Class number 2, we looked at a situation, we looked at an extreme situation. We said, let's assume someone has a portfolio, they're not sure that they're ever going to need that money at all. And so we looked at what could we do for someone in that scenario. Now, in class 3, we're going to look at the opposite extreme. We're going to say, all right, somebody has a portfolio, they're getting income, and they need all of that income now. They need it today. So is there anything we could do for that person? Right? So we're going to look at the other extreme, and we're doing that because we recognize, those of you watching this, you might be at one of the extremes or anywhere in between, but our point is we want to show you that tax strategies can help you reduce your tax liability, oftentimes substantially, regardless of where you find yourself, right? Regardless, no matter where you find yourself, you should be able to reduce taxes to a pretty good degree. So with that in mind, let's jump in. Let's look at our problem tax return. And Larry, we've covered this, a couple of times. And this is, remember, the old tax return, right? We've got people, they have money, and remember, line 8 comes from tax bucket number 1, right? The taxable bucket.
That's right.
Right, lines 8 and 9. So these are accounts, again, just to refresh people's memories, tax bucket number 1 are those accounts that are, like personal accounts, right? Brokerage accounts.
Yeah, all our non-retirement accounts.
Non-retirement accounts. Right. That's a good way to say it. I like that. And then down here, we've got some money coming out of the IRA right here. And we're going to take the position today, Larry, that
they didn't do the Roth.
They didn't do the Roth, right. But they need all this money. They need it all. Huh? What are we going to do? Is there anything we can do? Because remember what we said in the first class, right? We said, when do you pay tax? If you need money today, you pay tax when?
Today.
Today. And if you need it tomorrow, you pay tax?
Tomorrow.
And so on, right? But now we need tax. We need the money today. So shouldn't we just blindly pay tax on all this money? Larry, what do you think?
No.
No. Larry,
tax is a dirty word.
You don't even want to pay tax today. But they need the money today. You don't care. You say, the heck with that. We're still going to see what we can do.
There's got to be something we can do.
Got to be something. All right. And we're kind of joking around here, but you and I, we wouldn't even be having this discussion if there wasn't something we could do.
That's right.
Right? So we know there's something we can do. So let's go ahead and jump in and talk about, on that tax return, before we leave it, what we're going to do today is we're going to say, for the sake of discussion today, let's ignore the IRA. Let's just imagine that that's going to be there no matter what, right? Let's focus only on this section right up here. Let's just talk about what can we do with account number 1, the non-retirement plan money. What can we do there to generate the same income? But what's our goal? We want the same income. We want to guarantee the principal. We want a better tax result. And basically, we want this all guaranteed. We want guaranteed lifetime income, guaranteed principal protection, but we want better taxes. Impossible, do you say?
Not impossible.
Not impossible. All right, but that's what we want. We want the seemingly impossible. But we're going to show you how to do it today. And we're going to use something called the Structured Income Portfolio System. We call it SIPS for short. And it's really all about staggering your income. And this is something that Larry and I have developed together, right? We have developed this together, and I'm going to just share with you real quick how it works. So number 1, this money in bucket number 1, where what we're doing is where we pay all those taxes every year, right? What we're doing is we're basically breaking it up into 3 parts. And part number 1, we're going to use to generate all the income we need for the first 5 years. Now, how much income, you ask? Well, let's take a look again. 24,000, right? We've got 10 is 24. They're getting 24,000 of income. So we said, all right. So what do we do here? We say, well, let's put enough money in that, just enough money to basically guarantee that 24,000 for the next 5 years. Mm-hmm. And at the end of 5 years, Larry, how much money is going to be left in bucket number 1?
Zero.
Zip. Not a nothing. In other words, we want to put basically 24,000 times 5, whatever that is, like 120 maybe?
Yep.
Something like that. We put it here for the sole purpose of just paying out for the first 5 years. And we are intentionally spending that bucket to zero, right?
That's right.
And there are some neat tax consequences to doing that we're going to look at in a few minutes. Now, during that 5-year period when we're spending this bucket down to zero, Larry, what's going on with these other 2 buckets? What should they be doing?
They better be growing.
And growing by a little or a lot, or I mean, growing by at least enough to do what?
To replace maybe the bucket you're spending down?
Right. I mean, in other words, if we're spending down 24 grand a year, this better be growing by at least 24 grand a year.
You bet.
Right? And so we design, and we have a way that we do that. And we'll talk about that later, but the point is we're spending down here, but we're gaining here, right? So it's kind of taking out of one pocket, but the other pocket's growing to replace. So no problem. Now the next thing we want to do is we want to say, all right, so 5 years goes by. This bucket is now empty. These buckets have grown to replace it, but it's year 6, and guess what? We still need income. So where are we going to start taking income in year 6, Larry?
Let's take it out of that second bucket.
This one right here. And in fact, we're going to take it, now we've had a series, a 5-year series, right, of income here. So guess what? We'll probably start a 5-year series out of here. So now this bucket is grown. We're going to take income for 5 years. And now so that's year 6 through 10. At the end of that 10th year, Larry, how much money do we have left in that bucket?
Zero.
Zero again. So we're out of money here. We're out of money here, which means this bucket had better done what?
Grown enough to at least replace those other 2.
That's right. We want it to grow at least enough to replace what we've pulled out over here.
That's right.
Right? And there are ways, and again, we're going to talk about how we do that in a little bit, but there are ways that we can do that and guarantee it, right? And that's the key, because we want to guarantee sustainable income during retirement. All right, that's the system. Now, why do we use that system? Well, that's where the spreadsheets come in. Now, I know that all of you watching this love spreadsheets. Larry, you love spreadsheets, don't you?
I do.
Sadly
enough, I do.
Yeah, Larry's an accountant, folks. I mean, he's a little demented. He loves spreadsheets. Now, you and I, look, I know that you don't like them. I don't like them. But Larry does. So, I did the spreadsheet for Larry. Not really for you.
I so appreciate that.
But here's the key. Why did I do this spreadsheet? It's really for this. In the first 5 years, notice we're getting $24,000 of income. Larry, how much of that income is taxable?
Zero.
None of it. Right? Do you like that?
I love that.
No, we don't like. Yeah,
when we're talking taxes, I love that number.
We like zero. And then that's the first 5 years. What about the second 5 years? Well, now we're still getting 24, but how much are we paying? How much of that 24,000 is taxable? Is all of it taxable? No. How much of it's taxable?
4,000.
Just 4,000, right? So it's time to say, all right, well, what does that look like on a tax return? Now let's go back to our tax returns here. Remember, where were we? We're spending all that 24,000. This is where we were. We're paying $8,000 in tax by simply using this structure for this bucket number 1 money. We are able on a tax return to take that 24,000 and just get it down to either 0 or 4,000. I'm going to use 4,000 here to illustrate for the second 5 years because that's the higher tax number.
Good idea.
Right? And so, Larry, tell me, how much tax are we paying now?
Half.
$3,900. Less than half.
Right.
We're saving $4,200 a year, and that's in the second 5 years. In the first 5 years, we're saving more than that. So, over a 10-year period, how much tax do we save these people?
40 grand.
Yeah, 40 grand plus.
Right.
They get the same income, but they're paying 40 grand less in tax. Do you think that they're going to be pretty happy campers?
Very happy.
I mean, how could you not want that, right?
That's right.
So here we have a situation, in class number 2, we talked about the extreme where you never need the money. But here they need all the money today. And we can still cut their tax liability in half. Is that pretty powerful?
That's powerful.
And how many times, Larry, do you see this happening when you just meet people for the first time, you're doing their taxes? How many, and they're retired. I mean, how often do you see where they have opportunity if they would just implement a plan like this?
There's always opportunity.
Seems like there's always a chance, right? I mean, because nobody sits down and talks to folks about this stuff. So the net impact here is we're able to reduce taxes by roughly half. So let's go back into this and talk a little bit about what types of financial tools, because this is something Larry and I built together. So what kind of financial tools are we using in each of these categories? So in this top category, for the first 5 years, I got to tell you, we get really complicated. We basically use savings accounts, money markets, and CDs. So very complex. Obviously, you can catch my sarcasm. Yeah, I mean, it's very simple. Money markets, savings, CDs. Larry, how much interest do we earn in short-term money markets, cash, CDs?
You're not going to get a whole lot.
Yeah, we're not really making money there, are we?
No.
No big deal. And that's not where we're making money. We're just basically, it's a placeholder to shove out cash on a guaranteed basis for a 5-year period. What about this second component? Well, now we have 10 years. We've got 5 years to hold it and then 5 years to pay it out. So what are we looking at there? And again, remember, everything here must be guaranteed. So what are we using? Right? Well, we're using things like maybe some government bonds. Now, are we using government bond funds? No, because that's not guaranteed. Government bonds, the actual bonds. We might hold government bonds, agency bonds. We might hold CDs, longer-term CDs, or this is where we might use those traditional fixed annuities. Basically, what we're doing is we're just looking out there at the different interest rates, and we're going to basically say, all right, who's going to pay us the best interest rate, right? Again, on a guaranteed basis. And then number 3, this bottom bucket down here, this last section. Well, there, our hands are kind of tied. We really only have one alternative there. And that's because we need everything guaranteed, and we need a little bit better earnings rate. But now we've got a 10-year period to work with. And that's where we're using, typically we'll use fixed indexed annuities with things called guaranteed income riders. They're the only tools that give us the growth that we need, at least in today's market environment over that time. So here I am using that word annuity, right? But Larry, you and I have talked about this a lot. When somebody needs to guarantee their principal, guarantee their income, they're looking for guarantees. They want lifetime income, and they want to guarantee their principal. And they don't even want to really have to think about it. Annuities play a role in this general structure. I mean, nothing else really does the trick, does it?
Mike, they almost have to, because when you're now taking an income from a portfolio, you have to have this growth. How can that third bucket replace the first two if you have market downturns?
Right. What else will guarantee it?
Right.
We don't have a choice, but it works.
Right.
And so ultimately, when you go through all of this, what's the benefit? Not only are you protecting yourself, protecting principal, guaranteeing your income for life, but look at what you're doing from a tax perspective. You go from $8,000 to $3,900. What a beautiful solution, right? Can you think of any reason you shouldn't, that a person wouldn't want to take advantage of that?
Mike, I can't imagine why anybody wouldn't.
Well, who wouldn't, right?
Right.
Anyway, so we have to wrap this up for time, but here's the thing. Larry, I really want to thank you for being here for these 3 classes. I mean, you helped us go through understanding a return. You helped us look at how to save taxes. If you don't really need the money, now you're help showing us how to save taxes when you do need the money, and I really appreciate it. We know people may be at either extreme. We know they might be somewhere in between, right? But that's why, we always want to sit down with you and go over things, your specific circumstances in detail. Because, Larry, what percentage of the time can they normally save taxes?
We can always save them.
Unless they're paying 0 already.
That's right.
It seems like, right? Alrighty, folks, I hope you found this series helpful. Thanks for being in our class. And with that, we're signing off. Thanks for listening in, everyone.